the third part of this talk for tonight. I'd like to call on Shay. She's not so shy.
Hi everyone, good evening. Ayan. So mic, lower volume because I can hear my echo in the house. Can you hear my echo? Okay, allow me to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hey, look at the title of my talk. Okay, hi everyone, good evening. So actually, I would like to take this opportunity for you to ask you to pray for me since for some reason my heart is pounding really hard tonight. I don't know why. Maybe because number one, this is a very unique opportunity that JC and Twinkle asked me to do. I say me because I was trying to ask Mike for help, but unfortunately, he does not have a sister's mind. Proven, okay? so um uh so what happened was we were talking about how we can enhance the speakers workshop that CFC has already in place over the years, and of course due to post COVID or still in COVID era, we have to like enhance it in a way that it's virtual, right? Aside from that, we tend to also look into different styles and I guess help, different help from all over, and including the help of the sisters, and not only sister wives, but also even mature sisters, or even those who are also sisters who are serving in hold or in the other ministries. So that's why the challenge of so I had the challenge of looking into the CFC track, right? Like what Mike had been sharing on the role of the women in CFC community. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, and I think it might not be a surprise to most of you that there's nothing I could find. Okay. So I realized that although it is recognized, or although we are aware of the role of the husband when a husband is given a service in community, we are kind of, it's like understood that okay, it's husband and wife. When Mike is given something, okay, it's Mike and Shy. It's always assumed that the wife is included in that. It's recognized that I have a role, but unfortunately, nothing has been written. Nothing has been written about it. So then my challenge of okay, so what will be my talk? Okay, so that's why I'm I think that's why my heart is doubly pounding tonight, because this would be probably the first time that this would run. And if you could see the talk that I made from scratch, it says draft, okay, because nothing is set on stone on this. And mind you, it's also kind of a reflection of how it has been since I joined community, and that's been since first grade. Okay, since I've been here first grade, and of course transitioning to service life, as an adult, as a youth, as an adult, and then moving on to married life. So indeed, it was kind of it was kind of a difficult undertaking in a sense, but also very enlightening, actually, in my part, because and I think maybe it was God's gift for me too, because it allowed me to also reflect, at the same time learn from the talk. So disclaimer, as I give my talk, it's also the talk is also a learning experience for me. It's also a talk for me. Okay, I'm not sharing this out of because I have it's me. Okay, I know this. I embody this. I wish I embody it, but I am far from it. Okay, because I myself was really engaged. I became engaged on this cause and this I guess this value that the church is actually teaching on about women. Okay, and don't take it from me, like what's our value, but take it from, okay, from one of my favorite popes. It's actually Pope John Paul, or our saint. I think he's now a saint, John Paul II, correct? Okay. Okay, that was sisters. Okay. And I know that I see a lot of sisters as well. Tita Nits, I see you. Hello. Our so um we have been recognized by the church that, so actually among all the other popes during the church's time, Saint John Paul II wrote more about women than any other pope. He actually coined the term feminine genius. So when I was reading this, I was like, wow. Okay, I was like kind of tickled by Pope John Paul, because I knew I love his readings and works. Kung sa atin pakilig, no, sorry George, okay, $1. Okay, but it's kind of a tingly feeling wherein, wow, to be told that we have in us feminine genius. Imagine we're geniuses, because I think it actually meant that women has a capacity to uphold the primacy of the person and love. And I know that I'm not discounting the fact that, okay, men are actually really, they can be good speakers. They're all also, they have powerful things to say and all that. But at the same time, um, Pope John Paul recognizes that women also has this innate capability to also share or take part in evangelization. Okay, so actually I was reading on women on evangelization, so then I had to really go into into detail with, those things. That I have to, sometimes I listen to what Mike says. Okay, sometimes. Okay. Sometimes I also hear what he's talking about, the encyclicals and all that. Sometimes it gets to me. That's why, so when I was reading this, so also it was also here when St. John Paul II mentioned that it is written into the women's physiology, and sorry if it's kind of medical, because this really touched me, that our physiology, our very core has room for another, meaning we are really made to have another person within us, right? An innate sensitivity to the supreme value of a person, because we're the ones who get pregnant. We actually nurture life, right? That's kind of our nature. So because of this, he said that women have an irreplaceable contribution to make a society, to make in society and in the church. So we have a unique contribution, okay, to what to society and church. So that's what Saint John Paul II says. So not me, okay, not me. So I also encourage the brothers to also hear this, because not only will we value a woman's voice, but also we value how our wives are gifts to us, right? So, di ba, Mike? Okay. So, so I think that's also okay. That's also another one, of course, of our favorite pope. Okay, so not again from me. In his Evangelii Gaudium encyclical, he was also saying about the value of women. And he said the church acknowledges the indispensable contribution that women make to society through the sensitivity, intuition, and other distinctive skill sets which they more than men tend to possess. Not me, okay? I did not say that. But Pope Francis said that we have things to give or to share to the evangelization work that men do not possess. Okay? And I believe him just because not only he praises women, see, Mike approves, okay? So with approval of Mike, that there are certain sets, okay? And allow me to share this because I was just so amused with our handmaids meeting last night, because we're preparing for the HER for tomorrow. And I think Twinkle and Sandy will also vouch for me when I say that how amazing it is, a program made by I think 5 women or maybe more, or maybe just one who made that program. But it was in so much detail that if Ate Sandy or Kuya Nelson presses a wrong button during the HER, you will know that they screwed up something. Because that's how detailed it was, right? On what time a talk should end, how many minutes should you be talking, and I have directed handmaids conferences, and really that's kind of the nature, like each word has its direction. Like we had to follow word for word whenever I direct handmaids conferences. And I'm not saying that that's not the best. I mean, that's the best way to do it. There's always other ways to do it. I'm just saying that that's kind of a skill set of women that we're very detailed. I don't know why. Maybe that's how really God has empowered us to be. So sometimes that's why it's also it's not really like there's a certain advantage also of having women in a team, right? There's a certain advantage that we have women in our houses or in our homes. There's an advantage that I'm here, Mike, sometimes, right? Okay. I readily acknowledge that. Also, Pope Francis continued to say, I readily acknowledge that many women share pastoral responsibilities with priests, helping to guide people, families, and groups, and offering new contributions to theological reflection. And if you look at our church and those who serve, like the altar guild, the altar servers, and even the women who help father, like just decorate the church and all that. I really enjoy looking at them at mass, because you really know that they truly serve the Lord with all their heart, because even if they are in advanced age, they really still continue to serve the Lord with all their being. Okay. And that itself, right? So the Pope Francis also acknowledged that our contribution to the church. And he also quoted Pope John Paul II. He continued on, because the feminine genius is needed in all expressions in the life of society. The presence of women must also be guaranteed in the workplace and in the various other settings where important decisions are made, both in the church and in social structures. Isn't that beautiful that even the Pope today in the church acknowledges that women needs to have a voice, may it be in leadership, may it be in the family, or may it be just simply in community, right? Like in CFC. Although sometimes that's still I really feel that's still a long way to go in terms of CFC. But I know that in God's time, right, when men like Pope Francis, Pope John Paul II recognizes this, I know that it's coming our way. And that's why when I saw this, I was also like, oh, no, no. Okay. Because in all honesty, sisters, okay, and brothers, in all honesty, I am comfortable where we are at now. Really, I feel comfortable that to be Mike's shadow. Okay. I am comfortable that he is serving. He is serving. We are serving together. But he's always the one in front. I like that. I'm comfortable being that person wherein, I'm the background. Okay. And just like whenever I need to say something, I love to tell them, blah, 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 blah. This is my suggestion, blah, blah, blah. And then he says it out loud because I feel that it has more impact when it came from him. I just feel that, but it might be wrong. So that's why let me allow me to, and sisters, feel free to turn on your microphones, and brothers, just wait because it's also something for you. So as women, okay, allow me to just give you a reflections um of certain things that we have. So as the popes have said, okay, it there's a challenge there that women should get involved, because being in evangelization work and even CFC work is not easy, correct? And the strength that the Lord has blessed us is within us. So there is that relationship of the husband and wife. There is that that blessing that Couples for Christ brings to the table. And part of that is being a partnership, like man and woman and all that. And I'll dig deeper into that, as Mike would have said, the body of my talk. Okay, so the introduction is done. So for as women, okay, or wives, do you actually know your role in God's call for evangelization? And also, I'm asking this to myself too, because I myself also might have questions or might have also answers. But if you do have answers, maybe you can chat, I can, or you can just turn on your mic. So do you know your God's call for evangelization? It's a yes or no question, basically. Is it a yes or a no? Okay, so maybe think it in your mind, and maybe you can let me know. Yes? So if no, okay, because sometimes it might be a no. No, maybe it's okay. Have you taken the time to be bothered or to reflect or to find out what is my role? Okay, because that itself, I think I honestly would say that through this talk, it kind of made me say that,
Mom.
yeah, no, right? Huh? Right? Who was that? Oh, sorry, and my microphone, I think, is my volume is on.
Mana ko anang on ambot sa nila. Ang dito pas taas. Yan ako mag
Okay. Bisaya, so I could understand that. So, if no, have you taken the time to be bothered or to reflect or to find out? Yeah. So, I honestly, my first answer to that question prior to this talk was actually really no. And then if no, actually, I never really honestly, I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to reflect and to find out because, like I said, I was already comfortable with where we are. Right? We're comfortable. I'm comfortable listening to the talks and not talking. Okay, I'm comfortable being that. So, and if yes, if you do know your role, do you feel that in your heart did you maximize your capability or your role as wives or as women? Do you think that you have been totally blessed by God's grace, okay? Or are you empowered or engaged in God's mission for you, okay, in this? And do you feel limited? Did you ever feel limited or feel the need to limit your role in evangelization because you're a woman? Okay, it's like that's the husband's role. They're the leaders, let them do it. Okay? And honest to goodness, that's also my that's also my default, okay? My default is really Mike's the region head, let him do that. Okay? I don't need to take part on that, right? But really in the end, I'm with him in the car. I have to drive wherever he goes, and then in all meetings I have to be there, and then in all the sharings and in all the exchanges and all the reflections, I also have to be there. And then for the brothers, just this question: do you encourage or recognize your wife's role in CFC's evangelization work? Um, do you actually recognize that? And do you think and do you communicate that to your wife or to your partner? Or at the same time, like for example, for those who are in hold, hopefully the men also are able to communicate that with you, how important your role is to CFC's evangelization work, meaning the ministry itself as well, no, handmaids of the Lord. So like again, we don't need to have an answer to the questions, but I guess just reflecting on that as I move along, okay? Because I myself really are guilty of, not really on the ideal side of things, but at the same time, it made me realize on how important it is to have this communication and to just open it up to for discussion, okay? So, um, oops. Ah, okay. Sorry. How do I go back? Wait. Thank you. Okay. So now, just to give you just the on how to give you the context of my talk, okay, to what I'm talking about. If there's any sense in this. And I was praying to God, oh Lord, please just make sense of this all because I myself don't know if it makes sense, but it did make sense. Mike said it made sense and he had no comment. And then I was like, what? You're studying theology and you don't even have a comment. So is that it? Okay. So but that's how he loves me. He could not comment. Okay. And then so just the context of this, okay? First is the role of women in evangelization. Actually, the role of women in evangelization starts from creation, okay? So Genesis 1:26-27 says, "Let us make man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." So remember, it's not only man that was created by God, but also female. Okay, and these are like end. It's not end or it's not male female, right? It's two different individuals that God created. So our role of women actually goes back to creation. We did not just come, I mean, God did just not create us just because, okay, I just want a man, and okay, I just want someone who is different from a man and a female, right? His role or our role was truly identified, meaning why will he create something that is the same of a man? Okay, so it has to be totally different. That's why thus we are different, right? So that's why I was saying Mike could not help me with the sisters talk because as far as I know, he has not have a sister's mind, right? Or a woman's mind. Okay? Fortunately, right? Fortunate naman, right? He doesn't have a mind of that. So, because we're totally different human beings, right? And secondly, because of that, always realize it is good in Genesis 2:18, it is not good that man should be alone, and that is this is our purpose. I will make him a helper. I will make him a helper fit for him. So the woman beside you now, okay, for those who are married, are actually God's gift to you, right? So we are each other's gifts. That's the point. The Lord gifted woman to a man, and man was also gifted to a woman. So, in other words, we are both gifts to each other. Okay? The man and woman were made to be gifts for each other. Okay? And I think that's the big word there. We are gifts for each other. So when we do serve in evangelization work, I would emphasize that it's not for us to compete with our husband's voice, okay? Although that's the impression always. And I feel and I have to just honestly say that sometimes when I do speak up in community in CFC, I feel that people are saying that I am overstepping Mike's voice, but in fact, my voice is not his voice. Okay, so I would want to be heard as Shy and not as Mike, right? Okay, so I hope that women would also want that I want to be heard as someone who's speaking on behalf of me and not behalf of my husband. But again, unfortunately, he's married to me. So whatever I say affects him, right? And whatever he says affects me. And whatever he decides on, whatever we do in service, we affect each other. And that is a gift, okay? That is a gift. Don't take it as something negative, but it is a gift, okay? It's something we work on together as a couple. And therefore, thirdly, the context of this talk is to Genesis 2 and 24. Therefore, a man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh. And this is still all in creation, right? In Genesis. That that means that our sacramental bond in marriage makes us a husband and makes us a wife. And together we are one flesh. And that one flesh is also unique by itself. Okay? So don't feel bad if Mike and Shy, Mike, why are they like that? They're so sweet. Oh, look at them. They're so what do you call that? I wish I could be like that. Sometimes I do this. I wish I could be like that. I wish I could freely serve the same as tita, ganyan, or freely serve the same as Twinkle, for example. The family and all that, the things that you do, the simple things that you do. Sometimes you want to do things different, or you value the way couples do their own things. But in fact, your relationship as husband and wife is unique by itself. And that is by itself a gift to CFC's work of evangelization. Your dynamic as husband and wife is a gift to community. Okay? Because Mike and I are also not perfect. And we also have our struggles and our fights and our disagreements. Okay? But at the end of the day, we are Mike and Shy and we serve together. And in God's sacramental bond, we are kind of stuck, okay? Stuck in a good way, okay? So in God's sacramental bond, and remember this, that only you as husband and wife has vowed to to be together till death do us part. Even your children does not have that vow with you, right? Okay, your children will leave you, your children will your family also does not have that vow to each other. Only you and your husband has that vow that till death do us part. So to be able to escape your marriage is to die. Imagine that, okay? So that's how sacred your bond is with your spouse. And that itself is a gift to community, is a gift to the church, is a gift to sharing the joy of the gospel. Okay? So the man became husband and the woman wife, a sacramental bond that is unique and special. Okay, so you are husband, you are wife, that is special by itself. But husband and wife together is also a unique and special gift to the church. And why does the church value this too much? Because they encourage and they recognize the bond of husband and wife to become through value to as a family, right, in the church. Okay, so just let me share. Okay, three stories of this just made me like at awe on how God really truly blessed the women in the Bible, right? On how He used women to for evangelization. And did you know, okay, that the first Christian mission was actually, can you if you can recognize the scene, was the visitation. What happened in the visitation? This was when Mary, after her fiat, right, after her yes to receiving Jesus Christ or to carry Jesus Christ, right, to be to be Jesus' mother, and then she already got pregnant. Her first when after she said yes, okay, she was filled with the Holy Spirit and could not, for some reason she could not keep it to herself, okay, and she went to Elizabeth, right, who is also the mother of John, who's also pregnant at that time, to say that I am pregnant, I was filled by the Holy Spirit, and this baby is right, she's told the story about this Christian story, and the baby in their tummies, the baby of Elizabeth actually leaped for joy. And that was actually the first Christian mission. That was Mary proclaiming the gospel of receiving God's of Jesus, right? So this is actually the first Christian mission, the mention of Jesus Christ being proclaimed to the world. Of course, diba? I mean, I think you would not be surprised that the girls will be the first. I mean, the ladies or the women will be the first to spread to spread news. Okay, of course, that's a different story about taming the tongue. But anyway, okay, in a sense, God has used our capability of sharing our joy and our feelings by, okay, also by by evangelizing, right? So that's a gift. Second story was this woman in the well. In this story, okay, just briefly, Jesus creates actually this evangelist women. She was this is in John 4, actually, in John, book of John, chapter 4. This story shows about Jesus himself, who creates an evangelist. In essence, this story is about a woman. Okay, this woman was found by Jesus in a well. They were in one of their journeys, and then this woman had already a dark past. He had been with multiple she had been in multiple men, And you know, women at that time, during society, of course, they were of lower value than men. Let's simply put. And by simply just staring into Jesus' eyes, she did not see any condemnation. She did not feel any, you know, she did not feel, just, she just felt that she was loved unlike any other man. She felt forgiven, okay, and all that. And then she has recognized finally, upon staring into Jesus' eyes, that he was the Messiah. And after that encounter, of course, she left the water jar. Okay, since she does not need the water anymore because she felt that she had the living water in her, she ran back to her village. And according to the Gospel of John, she was actually the first one to proclaim the gospel publicly. Okay, so the disciples there then were already like proclaiming the gospel, but always in private. She was actually the first one who was saying the gospel publicly, that I met this man, da, 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 and all these things. And of course, not surprising, right? Women again were the ones who also again shared this joy. And this is very natural for women, okay? And I guess the husbands can agree, right? Whenever we have something to say, you'll hear it, right? We won't be the ones um who will tame our tongue at certain times. Okay. So the third story is actually the woman with the alabaster jar. Okay. This woman was, I think, when Jesus was already in a dinner party, preparing already for his passion, the passion. There is this woman that kind of crashed his dinner party and suddenly poured very expensive oil into his head. That's why he smelled so good and finished it. She actually poured the entire jar. It was very expensive. Okay. And it was her way of showing her extravagant love for Jesus, that even the apostles were also very shocked of like, why is she pouring that very expensive um jar of ointment, okay, or jar of oil to Jesus, okay? And then she just crushed it. She wasn't even invited to the party, okay, and all that. And so this act was actually known as something that was a proclamation of also the gospel of how your extravagant love can be shown. Okay, and of course, it's also again very apparent of women on how we are very showy of our feelings, right? We are the ones who are more affectionate, okay, and more expressive of our feelings. And again, these are just, three of the many stories, and Mike was also throwing so many other stories in there. And I was like, no, stick with this. Okay. So they didn't, he made the suggestion and I didn't listen, remember? So, so again, okay. So, um, and this quote actually, touched me to the core, is that Pope Francis said, women have much to tell us. Women are capable of seeing things in a different angle. Women can pose questions that we men cannot understand. Okay. Pope Francis. Okay. So again, I acknowledge Pope Francis' honesty that there are certain things that he would never understand of women. And that's fine, right? Because as women, we are really totally different. Okay? So the stories that were told there are actually, right, they illustrate the natural gift of women, of seeing others with the heart, empathy, affirming what is truly valuable. And women have deep awareness of the logic of the gospel, so different from human calculations. So he actually ended one of his International Theological Commission addresses or speeches, Pope Francis. He said that female theologians are able to take up a certain unexplored aspects of the unfathomable mystery of Christ. So we have a certain angle of the gospel that only women can also declare. So, brothers and sisters, okay, and also I address this both to brothers and sisters. Although it is very comfortable, I say, Okay, and I say this to myself too. Okay, that although it's very comfortable to stay in the background and sometimes not speak or tend to be a helpmate of our husbands or stay in the kitchen or or play the PowerPoint or so or doing all the supportive things which are all well recognized and of course part of essential part of the mission. But there is a challenge that is out there that our voice or our full story as couples can only be heard through the voices also of the wives or the women. So not a full story, right? Whenever a man will be able to share their life as husband and wife, that's half of the story because the full story also comes from the wife. And I would also attest that in most talks or in most conferences or in most even the Christian life programs, what really touches me the most or what I remember the most, okay, is usually the stories of the wives. Not because I'm a wife myself, but because it usually touches the heart, you know. It touches about the struggles. They can women have this tendency to be able to express really well, like the true feeling of not only in detail but also the feeling of how it is really to be living into the gospel. Okay, and for husbands we are really very lucky, right, that we have partners that we can support and we can who can lead us towards towards heaven. Okay, so and after all, right, we are couples for Christ. So therefore, it's very nice to have also another angle to the story, as Pope Francis would have said, and fulfilling God's mission is being a witness to Christ and continue to share the joy of the gospel also to other families. So there is a real need to not only share your story as husband and wife, but also your family stories to be able to preach the joy of the gospel, especially at these times, right? So let me close with just these two quotes that I have valued or just to leave you with by from Proverbs. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown. So your value is as well as your husband's crown. Not only the neck, but as well as we are also valuable to our husband's service in community. So here also I like this quote. Oh, sorry. Okay, wives, be strong women. Okay, sorry. Of God, your strength can uphold your husband exactly when he needs it the most. Okay, you are also the ones who knows best your husband and you know well how you can support them better in Christ's mission for you and your family. So, sisters, the challenge still continues that we are blessed to be in CFC, that we hear so many wonderful stories about families. But that does not stop there. Like Mike had said, for us to grow, we'll also have to share those wonderful stories. So thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you.
Sorry, overtime ba? Women.
Two takeaways that I just remembered. Especially when what I have observed on virtual sessions, the what first is it's very interesting if it's a couple speaker when women are there talking with the spouse. And I think it was reflected as well in both of in Mike's talk and as well as your talk, that partnership. So brothers and sisters, especially it's one aspect that we can consider, especially in giving virtual talks. Sometimes uh, you have attended some talks that you feel like, oh, the speaker's already like very monotonous. But that aspect of a husband and wife alternating, speaking, talking to each other, it's like a talk show and keeps the engagement happening for not only for the speakers, but for everyone as members of that online, let's say, online engagement or meeting. Right. Thank you for that affirmation. And another thing, and my key takeaway as well from Shai's talk, I just remembered most of the time in our assemblies, when I count the attendance, we're around 35 to 40, 50 couples. And when I look at volunteers, maybe that's not enough. But in this talk right now, what I've realized is we're not actually just 35 couples. We are 70 people at least that we can count on. So we need each and everyone's help in proclaiming the gospel. Okay?